I think where we're at now is I particularly just am feeling crushed in the sense of having these very big decisions that we have to make so early on in the process. It's kind of a bit of whiplash because I think Michael and I both were looking at the whole process with rose-colored glasses. Like, everything's great if we follow these steps and do everything right, do everything that people tell us to, then we'll come out of this at the end with the result we want. And what we found is that every turn that we've taken, there's been surprises, extra fees, extra bills, and really unfortunate news that has just kind of been hitting us one after the other. So it's not anything that we expected going into this. I don't know what possessed us to think that it was going to be easy at this stage, but we really have, like, it's felt like a reality check, and it's made us question, is it worth the risk? Is it worth going through the hurt and the frustration and the possibility that we could be dealing with a miscarriage or transfer not taken? Because every time that we hear bad news that is going to be added months into the process, that's added tens of thousands of dollars into the process with multiple parties looking for compensation. And it's also human life that you're dealing with. So just the thought of what could be and then that falling apart is a lot to handle. Yeah. I don't feel like I'm equipped to make those decisions because this is our first time going into it. So now we're kind of in this position of like, are you going to put 2 embryos into a person? Are you going to put 1 to mitigate risk? Are you going to do mine or Michael's,
or are we gonna do a whole other
IVF cycle
and see if like we can get a better result and more fertilized eggs that end up becoming potential embryos that we could use, to transfer?
It's up to us at the end. But that makes it almost even harder because I feel this sense of responsibility, this sense of guilt. If something goes wrong, it's hard to know what the right decision is when you can't see the future and you don't know what's going to happen. We just wanted to sit down and talk and give a little bit of an update of kind of what we've been going through and where we're at with surrogacy right now. I know y'all get bits and pieces of it on Instagram and TikTok, but this gives us a better opportunity to actually
I think I expected this part of the stage to actually be like very exciting, but it ended up being pretty overwhelmingly disappointing. It's not like catastrophic, but it's just like very disappointing, I think, for our expectations. And I don't know that I set my expectations really high. I just think we had sort of like a weird outcome.
We had an egg donor. The egg donor donated 30 eggs, which is amazing. However, only 20 of those eggs were mature. That is a low number for 30 eggs.
For reference, somebody else said that their egg donor also had 30 eggs, but 27 of them were mature. It was kind of a big cut in numbers right at the beginning, but we're like, that's okay, 10 and 10.
We were still thinking very positively about this. However, then once those eggs were fertilized, we got the update that only 7 of them made it into embryo stage.
And only 1 of them was mine, and 6 of them were his.
Right. With the news that Michael only had the 1 embryo, that was kind of like the moment where
it was just a shock. It's like, it was not the outcome that we were hoping for.
After the fertilization, there is like a 5-day period where they let that embryo grow. And basically every day or every couple of days, you get updates as far as like which embryos are actually growing and which ones teeter out. Mm-hmm. So there's a rate of attrition all the way from day 1 to day 5 or 6. And then at day 5 or 6, they take biopsies of all of the blastocysts or the embryos that have grown into a sizable mass. And those biopsies are sent off to the lab to be genetically tested to see if they have the right number of chromosomes. Bunch of scientific jargon, but it's all data to figure out whether or not this embryo is going to result in a successful pregnancy.
Or if Matthew's 6 made it to blastocyst stage. And my 1 also made it to blastocyst stage. So then it was like kind of hopeful, like, okay, maybe
this is the miracle embryo that we can get through, and
maybe this is just the one and it's meant to be.
But even at this stage, just knowing that we only have the 1 embryo from Michael's side is stressful because our original plan was to do twins, one from me, one from Michael, have them be put into the same surrogate and then born at the same time. But with Michael only having one embryo, it really limits our chances and ability to do that, because if anything goes wrong, if it ends up in an unsuccessful pregnancy, or
Doesn't implant.
if it doesn't implant, or if it miscarries, then we have to start all over from scratch. Step 0.
So then the next news that we heard was that after genetic testing, which takes 2 to 3 weeks, so there's like kind of a long time where you're like, oh, what's happening? So Matthew ended up with 3 totally normal embryos, but the one that made it from me, it came back with what's called low-level mosaicism. You can look it up. Essentially, it just means it has a lower chance of implanting, a higher chance of miscarrying. If implant goes well, no miscarriage, there's almost 100% chance that the baby's normal. Sort of just like well, it could work, but your chances are less.
And we've heard things from so many different people who have gone through surrogacy before and have had miracle cases and incredible things that have happened, but also really heartbreaking stories as well. So it's just a mixed bag, and you don't know. It's nature will do what nature does, and you have no control.
It was our choice to do this process. It's also a very steep price tag, and having setbacks like this is just sort of like a gut blow as well. Yeah, we can do another cycle, but like how many thousands is that gonna be? That was money that we were probably going to be investing in nursery and baby clothes and toys. And so then it's like, okay, so now we have to kind of revamp the idea of what we're gonna be doing after we have kids, and like how do we financially plan for that? And so
at this point, I don't know if Michael and I can afford to do another IVF cycle and then do surrogacy after that. We are still kind of adding up the numbers and figuring that out as we talk with all the parties involved. But there's a pretty high likelihood that we're going to say, can't do another cycle right now. And have to either put a pause on the entire thing or just try with what we have and hope for the best.
We are a little bit premature filming today. Luckily, we're going to have a call with our fertility doctor and the finance team to see what the additional cost would be. We also have to figure out if there's going to be compensation for the egg donor again.
We're going to take a quick break from the video and talk about something very important from our sponsors at Better Internet Initiative. And this actually kind of relates to the video because we are talking about money, we are talking about finances, and it's an important thing when you're considering family planning.
So the subject today that we want to talk about is called cash support. Very simple. The past few years trying to navigate the economy and a myriad of like relief packages and incentives has been challenging and kind of exhausting.
Between relief checks, loan forgiveness, tax credits, and other incentives, it can all be very confusing. Like, I don't know what any of that means. I mean, I do if I look into it, but it's a lot.
What if we reconsidered these aid packages, these incentives, these tax credits, and just looped them all together in something called cash support?
And cash support simply means that people can decide for themselves how to best improve their financial situation.
Maybe you need to pay some bills. Maybe you want to get out of debt. Maybe you're trying to pay off a credit card. Maybe you want to start a business, send a kid to school, or
start a family.
Start a family, who knows? Or send your kid to an extracurricular activity, or maybe you want to go take a trip and visit some family.
Because human connection matters just as much as a stock pantry. We know this. We often tell low-income people like what they should do with the little that they have, but cash assistance is a form of respect for their lived experiences.
Today, high inflation means cash support programs are more impactful than ever. The value of the federal minimum wage is at its lowest point in 66 years. It's worth 27% less than it was 13 years ago and 40% less than it was in 1968. 40% is like half.
Yeah.
40% is basically half.
I like it when you get angry and passionate about things. In light of recently celebrating Martin Luther King Jr. Day, he wrote in his last book, "The solution to poverty is to abolish it directly by a now widely discussed measure, the guaranteed income."
So that's what you have to think about today. The more you know.
I love doing these because we learn a little bit of something about financials, and also like I think it's important to like incorporate these bigger discussions in our videos because we may be talking about surrogacy, but it all relates to each other.
Totally.
And that like brings me to another point. Like I feel like this is a whole double-edged sword because for us, we are so freaking privileged to even be able to go through this process. So for me to even talk about like issues that come up with surrogacy and IVF, I feel like, I don't know, pings of guilt, pings of shame, because I should be just grateful for being here and getting to this point that I'm in a loving relationship with you, and we're even able to like pursue having a baby, which is something that I never thought to be possible 10 years ago. So to even like be frustrated with what's happening, it's like oh, how ungrateful, how selfish. I'm feeling this intensity around it because it does feel like an isolated and lonely place to be in surrogacy, and I can't imagine further difficulties that can happen through this process. But to have, I would say, real pain, real loss, like losing a sense of control, and then not feeling like you can talk to other people about it, or not feeling like others can relate to you in your area. I'm the youngest couple I know of that's going through this right now, and nobody in Portland is going through this that we know of. So to not have others that we can like figure it out with, it's rough, especially for those who are going through this all over the world. I feel that it's not easy, and we're talking about really big things that carry a lot of emotional weight.
2-3 years from now, this could all be water under the bridge, and we could have the outcome that we wanted and the outcome that we dreamed of, and everything could go really, really well. But you don't know. It's the unknown. Is this financially responsible? Is this responsible in general? Like, is this something that is fate, or is it something that's like not for us? Or I don't know. It's just one of those weird spots.
So I think it's worth talking about the hard stuff. Okay, that's where we're at.
Maybe you learned something.
Hopefully.
Maybe you didn't.
Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and if you enjoy our journey and want to see what's next.
And we'll talk in a different video about things that we learn tomorrow.
Yeah. Seriously. All right. Have a great day.
Bye.